Hello, everybody, and welcome to our seventh episode of Remote Control. I should have written this down before we started. Six or seven, somewhere up there. We're coming up on
I think
10.
I think we're on 5, Matt. But don't. You don't
I
have to keep going.
thought we said six last time, so we'll look it up later.
5, 7. We're Americans. We don't believe in math or science. It's fine.
Particularly in this time of year, but let's try not to be too depressed about that.
We only have one more day to not be depressed. Let's make the most of it.
So, this is Remote Control. It is a indie games expo hosted by Wonderville and Death by Audio Arcade. We are today showing off Abs vs. the Blood Queen by Bumblebear Games. We've got some guests on the stream who have worked on the game. Let's start by just doing quick introductions, left to right. Hi, Jyro.
Hi. I guess I'm on the left. I can't see. Yeah. I'm Jyro. So yeah, I'm Jyro. I work at Bumblebear, and I live in Brooklyn. I also DJ. I've been DJing at Wonderville a few times as well. So yeah, I make games. I mostly do a lot of the programming and some additional design work on Abs. So you can complain to me about all of the bugs. It's my fault, and I take full responsibility.
Hey, I'm Mark. I'm a co-owner of Wonderville. It's a bar and arcade in Brooklyn, and recently it is a podcast location. I'm really excited to play this game. I've been a huge fan of Killer Queen for a long time. I'm really bad at it, so I'm looking forward to seeing how far I can get.
We're all bad at it.
Everyone but Pod Racers is really bad at it.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Pod Racers later.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Pod Racers for sure. But yeah, I'm Nick. I'm one of the co-owners of Bumblebear, and I've been doing all the art on Abs vs. the Blood Queen, and some game design as well. And I go to Wonderville a lot.
And I'm Matt. I'll be your host and one of the players for the evening. I'm the stream manager at Wonderville. Also involved in the MagFest Indie Arcade and sort of gradually stumbling into the indie game scene in New York. That's really the best way I can describe it. I don't know how it happened, but here I am. Jyro and Nick, what's the sort of tagline for this one? What's the elevator pitch?
Oh, I feel like we had an elevator pitch early on, and then the game morphed into something. I think the original elevator pitch was that it was going to be like a Killer Queen practice game, that you could hone your Killer Queen skills playing this game while we were stuck in Corona for the next 3 months or 6 months possibly. So we needed to get it out really quick. Yeah, and then once we started the project, we started to see some more interesting possibilities in it. So I don't know, Jyro, do you have a tagline for this that would be appropriate? I don't know.
Yeah, I think at this point the tagline is probably basically that this is the single player adventure version of a Killer Queen game. Sure. So you have the in-person 10-person arcade game where you're shoulder to shoulder, and that's the original, Killer Queen arcade experience. And then we have Killer Queen Black, which is the console, more at home, but still with that same sort of multiplayer platformer team battle game. And this is what Killer Queen looks like if it's a single player kind of spooky adventure platformer running game. So yeah, it's just kind of expanding that Killer Queen IP into what if Killer Queen was a single player game that focused on one hero kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the game. I'm going to jump into this tutorial. I guess so. You were telling me before this is a brand new build, right?
Yeah. So what you're going to be playing right now is essentially, it says 4.1 on the bottom, but this will be essentially version 4.2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to include the primary changes are a tutorial, which you're going to be playing through right now. We know that onboarding new players to any Killer Queen game is a challenge. And we're also adding some new balancing and difficulty curve to sort of give players more of a chance to reach the later game, because the game's very tough right now.
It certainly is. I gotta say, like, as someone
Are
who
you
is
playing it right now? Is that
yes,
what's happening?
yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I'm noticing a tiny bit of dropped frames, so I might stop streaming via Discord. So Jyro and Nick, if you'd be willing to actually open up the Twitch stream, you can watch from there.
Sure. I have 2 monitors. I can make that happen.
Yeah, I'm just
I
gonna.
should have monitors.
So just give me one moment here. Stop streaming. Go here. Move that. There.
We're just on the Wonderville Twitch, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Wonderville NYC.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, that's way better. Okay, sorry about that. You never know how much energy Discord is going to take from your machine.
All of the energy.
Yeah, usually
Literally
all of it.
As much as is possible, yeah.
Matt, I also think you lost Nick briefly in the transition.
Yep, we're
No,
good.
I turned it off by accident. It wasn't his fault.
All right.
So yes, tutorial level, it starts out, it's just, the muscle memory of Killer Queen jumps came back so quickly, and to the point where I was like, whoops, I need to stop smashing the spacebar on my keyboard. It wasn't made for this.
Yeah.
How?
I think some people prefer playing with controllers and buttons and fight sticks and stuff like that, just because they are worried about smashing their keyboard so hard because they're triple tapping on their up arrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting decent clings here. And it is nice because I have both space and up arrow to work with, so I can sort of get that.
You can roll 2 hands almost if you're really.
Yeah. Are the physics identical, or do they just feel identical?
So ABS is built on the Killer Queen engine, and that it is in Unity, but it is developed essentially using all the same physics, the same controllers, all of the same platforming and jumping. So it truly is Killer Queen. As far as all of the physics and major interactions go, there are some small adjustments, such as the snails move a little bit faster. That's not a physics change, it's just more of a balance change. But fundamentally, everything you're doing is going to be the same as Killer Queen. Kicking a berry in, you can assume that it's going to behave just like kicking a berry in, into the hive.
When the hell am I going to have the option to kick a berry in this game?
It happens.
All right, Pod Racer's doing it.
And it's worth 10,000 points, so it's worth going for if you have the opportunity. It's worth a little bit of time.
All right, pro strats. So the main structure of the game, it is a sort of a challenge-based, random seeds, infinite runner. I think I'll just start by doing a few random runs, sort of work my way up to trying to actually climb higher in this high score chart for today. I'm guessing the random run is where there's going to be some of those beta features.
So the features so one thing I want to specify is that it is not an endless runner. During the early development, it was endless just because we hadn't added elements to it yet. But the game does intend to play much more like a roguelite in the way that you get better. And there are bosses, there are checkpoints, there are waypoints per se. So even though you are running to the right, you do the running, it doesn't run for you. And there are places where you're not running, like the secret rooms and the boss battles and stuff.
I do not have time for that, snail.
And there always will be an end as well. That is part of the design. So we're going to be adding more worlds and more bosses instead of endless content. So,
Do you have an idea of like how long you're aiming for? Is that something you're still sort of feeling out?
What were we saying, Nick? We're aiming for the play cycle, something like 15 minutes to a half hour, let's say, maybe. Depends on the player, but
On a really
Nick.
Yeah.
Right. So your average run is going to be very short.
Right. Because it's Killer Queen.
And it's this it's a little bit of a tug of war going on, like, we keep going from shorter to longer to shorter to longer, so there's a little bit of that going on right now too. So it's hard to say exactly how long it's going to be, but I figure it's probably going to be about 15 minutes or so.
Jyro, there's a question in the chat. Is this the new, more forgiving build? And I wonder if you wanted to talk about the differences between this and what people may have on Steam.
Yep. Yeah, so let me finish that intro, basically. So we've added some new elements, such as the tutorial. But primarily the main goal of this build, which is going to be 4.2, is going to be an update to the difficulty curve and the balancing. So even though you are running to the right, So right now, a lot of our players are having trouble even getting to the first boss. It's a little bit challenging. The difficulty right now ramps up essentially to like more or less maximum in the first world, the outskirts as we're calling it, relatively early on, let's say halfway through. And it means that there are just many situations where a less experienced player won't see the boss. And that has a couple of problems. And one, we want players to get to the boss, right? Like it's exciting to reach those major milestones. Not on your first run, but by your 100th run, you probably should get there at least, and if not beat them. And so the game is more focused on a gradual difficulty curve. So on average, players should get much further into runs. And additionally, it should be easier to reach the boss. Each of the zones is now a little bit shorter as well. And certain elements show up less frequently. Like there are less situations where there are many, many snails that are shooting the purple balls at you early on, simply because those are challenging situations. So yeah, basically this is a new version with a new difficulty curve, I would say, and just some overall polish to like, what does a play cycle look like? So you should expect to reach the boss more often. And that should also give us some more data on how tough the boss really is. Because right now it seems to be a challenge, but if you only reach it one out of every 20 or 30 runs, you can't really develop a strategy for it. So those are the main goals with this version that we're going to be releasing.
Good job, Matt.
Oh no! Oh no! I do not have
pretty good here. You soldiered up.
Yeah, I do not have a lot of experience doing soldier versus snail.
Just fly at him nice and high.
Fly at him nice and high.
Watch out for spikes though.
Yes. Not gonna do it. Not gonna go for it. Too risky.
Yeah, Nick, was there anything else in this build as far as difficulty and balancing that we talked about that you want to mention, or was that kind of the gist of it?
We actually talked a little bit today about incorporating specific changes according to the difficulty. Like, well, maybe we could have spikes that only point one way in the easier parts or whatever. So just trying to fine tune that difficulty a little. Like, there's a couple of knobs that we have to turn, and I guess we're just trying to add some more knobs to it.
Yeah, so this certainly won't be the last difficulty.
Ooh, that's risky.
Or change. We're just trying. It's funny. We're a little bit behind you, so now I
know you
died, but I won't see it for 3 or 4 seconds. I've never seen you die.
You'll see it. You'll see it. It was a tricky bounce.
Yeah, you took a nice snail bump there. Snail bubble bump.
Good run.
Yeah,
that was not bad.
10K. Feeling good about it.
Yeah, 10K is fine. I think anything above 10K is like you solidly got into it. You know,
10K is really good.
Yeah,
I got to be careful about flying off the top of the screen as a warrior, because that's what lost me my warrior buff.
Yeah, you do have to be careful when ascending for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one weird design thing about screens is that they're wide and not tall. And in a game like Killer Queen Arcade, it's fine because, Killer Queen in the arcade, it's okay because the screen doesn't scroll. Same thing with Killer Queen Black. So there's no point where you have to consider that real estate. And most games deal primarily with horizontal space. Your average runner games, your average action platformer, or they have an independently controlled camera, right? Where you can look around like Mario 64 or something. We don't really have those luxuries, being that we're keeping to the Killer Queen archetype of one button, one joystick. And so vertical real estate becomes a real design challenge. How do you make interesting perils above you and below you when you actually can only see half as tall above you as below you, So that's definitely an unusual design limitation that we didn't necessarily know would be such a struggle as we were developing initially.
And it looks like I know this game is using a sort of room system, right? For what I'm Yeah,
Nick, do you want to mention that, how the rooms kind of work?
Oh yeah, so basically we have like created these rooms or maps, and they get strung together randomly, but not entirely randomly. Some of them belong to the first world, some of them share worlds, some of them belong to the second world, etc. And so within each map, there's a bunch of variable stuff that gets turned on and off. So you may see the same map many times with different properties. So like one time you may run through the same room and it may have spikes on the ceiling. And another time you'll run through it and it won't have spikes, but it'll have 3 snails in it or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also dependent on the difficulty manager. So basically, as you progress through the game, it's turning on more and more of the hazards in each map.
Yeah, sorry, I just was thinking about that in the conversation about camera movement, because it's very clear that's like, it is that room that is setting the camera, right?
That's correct. So we actually have, one of the ways we've solved this is we have camera zones, and there's a couple different types of them. And when we draw up these maps, there's many parameters that go into it. Obviously, we lay out the actual platforms and tiles, potential positions of enemies, spikes, and all the features. But additionally, there's an invisible attribute called camera zones, and those are different depending on whether you're a worker or a flyer. And they're also dependent as you transition between the different zones. They kind of do smart things like tween between them and like basically try to keep you relatively centered into the middle of the, play zone and track you in a meaningful way. But also sometimes lead you, you know what I mean? Like we have a few design core goals. One is which is to always let you look ahead as much as possible, whether it's up, down, left, or right, not left really, but up, down, or right. Mm-hmm. And also to try and make sure that we don't ever like both let you go off camera as well as move the camera without you. So you'll never like stop moving and then the camera keeps going with you, because that's kind of weird and disorienting when platforming, because you have no camera control. So it always moves when you move, and it always tries to do these smart ideas. It's not always perfect, and certainly we're still resolving between this latest build and the previous one before it. We've resolved an issue where you can jump off camera if you have speed and are on one of the jump platforms, because it's just a situation that needs to be custom accounted for with how fast the camera moves. So
right.
We're always refining it, but yeah, it has zones and it tries to be smart about where it's looking.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about just completely outrunning the camera if you shot straight into the sky.
Yeah. I mean, we prototyped a bunch of different cameras initially. So we tried the camera locking always exactly with you in the middle, kind of more like Mario for the most part. There's some exceptions, but generally Mario does that. We tried fixed cameras that like stick very strictly to the camera bounds, but it was weird with flying. And so, yeah, after prototyping several versions, we kind of settled on one we liked the best and have just been refining that, since then.
Josh was actually tweaking it yesterday, so...
We're going to be tweaking this camera because every new room we add has the potential to add a new space. That's weird,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's actually, that seems like a good time to mention. This game is in early access as of, 3 days? Only a few days. Less than a week, right?
I think it's about a week or something.
About a week now? Yeah.
Recently, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about a week.
Mm-hmm. Why early access for this? I know... Obviously, Killer Queen has a huge community, and like the game itself is still getting updated and tweaked now and then.
Well, I mean, there's not a ton of people playing Killer Queen right now.
Right now,
COVID, and we're not. It's kind of hard to make a sale too. So, like, why not go into early access? I mean, there's a lot of feedback we can get. We kind of tapped out on like players from the community, like giving us feedback. We really needed like a more wide audience than just, people who play Killer Queen. And that has actually brought a lot of stuff to light, like that, it's just weird in the game that like, it's part of the reason why we have a tutorial right now, because we launched without the tutorial, which was, a mistake.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think part of it too is that like this early access process for us is a multiple part process. We've actually technically been in early access on Steam since just after the Kickstarter ended.
Right.
As far as like the Steam logistics of what constitutes early access. But we have essentially done this in multiple parts where step one was we released to our Kickstarter backers. And that has the intention of saying, okay, these are our people that are most interested in the game, most interested in giving us feedback, and also are probably most familiar with both Killer Queen and our work in general. And so let's get their thoughts. And they'll help us refine it to a point where it's ready for a more public view, you know? And from that point, we were like, okay, now we feel like it's ready, at least enough to the point where we can say, hey, you've never played Killer Queen before. This is probably still palatable and accessible and designed and developed enough. And so we're at that point now, and we're going to continue to use the feedback from our community, from our Discord, from, you know, people, bug reports and suggestions people send us, and, you know, keep refining it more and more until we're ready to say, okay, general wide public, we're ready to say this is worth your money as a fully published, you know, finished game.
Mhm.
And I think also one other thing is that it fits into that model we had from the Kickstarter early on, which is, we know you're not at arcades right now and we want to give you something to play. You know, you like our content and we like you, and we want to continue to develop that relationship and give you stuff to play and give us stuff to make. And those multiple steps allow us to essentially stay in constant contact with our community and constantly let them know, hey, we're still here. We know we're not selling you arcade cabinets right now, but we haven't forgot about you. Don't forget about us, you know?
I'm totally mesmerized watching you play, honestly.
Yeah, I can see you're really focused on it. I was a little bummed you didn't make it out of the boss, but you got pretty far.
I got pretty far. I panicked and then did not handle the swarm well. It's all right. That's all right.
So let me ask. Go
I
ahead,
was
Mark.
going to say, I think what I like most about this is that it feels like a Killer Queen training course. Like,
Yeah.
Have you talked to any Killer Queen players that like have played this and kind of honed their skills, or is that sort of the intent behind it?
I think the running joke in the community is that whoever's playing this is going to come out like a superstar objectives runner. You know, the next season of Killer Queen is going to be all about workers, you know?
I mean, I'm here for that. That's dedicated Blue Skull's objective over here. So
As an objective runner, I'm also okay.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, that means people are going to be vying for my position a little bit more. So I don't know. Maybe
But you'll be so much better. That's the thing.
that's true. If they aren't
Someone
playing.
in the chat said, "Not really."
Really.
I will say what people want as far as Killer Queen players is, and this is a fine line we have to actually balance, is that Killer Queen players actually just want Killer Queen. And they would like for this to really just be Killer Queen training simulator, right? They're like, give us the sandbox mode. Let us practice all these things. Let us spawn in enemies. Let us play online, you know? And that's just not quite exactly what we're doing. But we do also still want to address that those are the interests and concerns of a lot of people that are playing it. We don't just want to make, here's the Killer Queen characters in the sandbox go, because one, that's not actually very interesting. I know players want it conceptually, but just as far as like as a product to sell, right? Like to give them something that is worth their time and money, it's not really a marketable product. It's a very small audience that would have a very limited investment of both time and money in that. But we do want to make sure that all the skills are represented, right? So like we'd love to figure out more spaces where like triple tap sticks are important in this game. And, you know, we're always looking to fit those features in so players can feel like they're practicing those skills, you know? Giving more places where crown scraping is valuable, but also not letting you crown scrape all the time, because then the game's super easy. So it's kind of a constant give and take with like, we know you want Killer Queen and we want to give you Killer Queen, but we also can't just like give you Killer Queen, you know? That's I think how it works.
Yeah, I honestly think that there's some of the things that would make it a great trainer, like the things that will make it a good game are the things that you know, all the Killer Queen players don't want. So
yeah, I'm reading through the chat here. Yeah, somebody in the chat just I'm about to see you die, I know it.
yeah.
I'm feeling it. Oh,
that's an awkward
I have so little practice controlling a Speed Warrior.
I think, you know, people love Speed Warrior and it's very powerful, but it is hard.
It is so hard to control.
There's a lot more perils here to being a Speed Warrior. I think in Killer Queen Arcade, it's very safe to be a Speed Warrior because one, there's some intimidation factor, and two, you can play very safe to retain that power.
Yeah.
There is no such safety here, you know. It's very powerful, but you also have to take bigger risks.
Yeah, I wonder if like speed is actually a disadvantage as a warrior in this game.
Well, playtesting says no.
I think for somebody like pod racers it isn't, but like for a regular human, like I think that it may actually be a disadvantage.
Yeah, I think a new player would probably. Well, I think I'll say is that a new player would probably benefit learning how to play warrior more by not being speed warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Just like learning how to fly and navigate and like play that play style.
What's interesting is that you have to really learn how to fly in a straight line, which I feel like I didn't do as much in Killer Queen Arcade.
Mm-hmm.
But like here, there's a lot of kind of precision that you need to get through the obstacles.
For sure. I mean, it is the same physics, but it's almost like an example of how different just like changing the map can be. You know what I mean? Where there's, a lot of horizontal movement here, whereas most Killer Queen maps are very intentionally relatively vertical. We don't think so much about like, well, these two platforms across from each other, how do they interact? We think, well, these two platforms diagonal from each other,
punished.
how do these interact? You know what I mean?
Extremely punished for taking that warrior gate instead of speed.
Yeah, I mean, in Killer Queen, it's all about the columns, right? It's all about like those vertical columns going up and down, like escape paths. Like, how is the queen gonna get out? How is like, where are the pinch zones? All of that stuff. It's like designing a basketball field. This is something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have there ever been in like even just in trial maps stage hazards in Killer Queen Arcade? Or has that just been something that's never been the intent?
Me and Josh talked about that early on, and we kind of decided that we would rather players get killed by other players than like, oh, there's a spike on the wall or whatever, or there's like some entity that is kind of out of their control that can kill them.
Right. Because so much of the game is yelling at the person who killed you.
Well, yeah.
In a friendly way, of course, but,
Right. I mean, for better or worse, that was the decision we made, which I think made it more sports-like.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, if you think about a game like Counter-Strike, you don't want to die to the map. If you're thinking about Rocket League, you don't want to fall into a hole on the course. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're playing against the other team.
Right.
I will say, though, one thing that is important to know as far as those features is almost all of the types of perils in here are, in fact, things we did try in Killer Queen. So, for example, the blue watery stuff here is actually called goo in code. It was originally this green goo that we tried, and we were like, nope, moving slow sucks, And the lava was something that existed already. Like, there was already something that killed you if you touched it. And we said, nope, the map killing you sucks, And so there was already a lot of these things. The jump pads, for example, those are actually, if anyone went to Bumble Bash last year and played on the prototype maps, there was a jump platform map with these green bars that jumped you super high. They're implemented one for one here as they were there with some new art. It's just that they didn't feel like a good fit on the right map.
Are there any new features that we like actually implemented for this? I mean, I know we implemented a lot of stuff, but like
Peril, do you mean specifically?
Or were they all...
I think most of the major ones are some version of it, right? So like hazards are essentially lava, and like the sludge and lava are basically the same thing. So they're all kind of built off of that original a peril that kills you framework. So yeah, I mean, and then the same thing with the goo and the jump platforms. I think it was funny. I think
bosses are definitely new. Bosses are a totally new thing.
Bosses are new. I mean, the enemies are new, right? Like, there's no AI other than the Bumblebots in Killer Queen, and they function fundamentally totally different than how things do here,
Right.
So, like, warriors with patrol routes. I would count the snails shooting stuff as a new type of peril, right? Like, those are totally from scratch, essentially, sort of implementation. So, but I think that's also intentional, right? Like, we didn't want to stray too far from Killer Queen, right? Like, we look at stuff like this all the time, and we say, does a gun belong in here, right? And it's like, I don't think so. You know what I mean? Probably not in a one button game. Probably not in Killer Queen. Maybe if we find it, maybe a boss gets a gun, right? That's where we put something like that in. But
you never know.
So yeah, you never know. Yeah.
I mean, we have talked about possible turrets or whatever. So I mean, they're
All right, so you made it to the boss for the second time
Yep,
now.
yep.
I'm gonna wait
I'm
till
gonna
I
be
finish your thing here.
I'm gonna be a little bit quiet for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you focus.
Okay. I have time to read. Oh nope, don't have a berry. Oh, the little guys. The little guys.
Oh, those little guys suck.
We have
Yeah,
multiple
they're
people in chat
you
asking
grab a
about
berry.
hats.
Hats. So do you want to answer this question, Nick?
What's
Do you
that?
feel comfortable about
About
hats?
what?
Do you
About
feel
hats?
comfortable?
Scorpion hats
do you feel
when?
comfortable answering that on stream?
Yeah. Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me get my hat, and then I can answer the hat question.
Hat up.
Oh, actually, my video is not on stream, so you can't even see my hat. Okay.
We believe it's
Yeah,
there though. Oh, don't you
I
camp
see
that
that,
guy.
I mean,
Discord,
I've been
so.
instructed not to say anything about hats from Chaco, so I'm gonna refer to Jyro as far as hats go.
I will say that we do not currently in the game have any hats implemented. But if there were to be hats, it is more likely to show up in a game like Abs versus the Blood Queen than in a game like Killer Queen Arcade, where there's a framework for you to collect things at home. So I'm not saying we'll have hats, right, explicitly. I'm not saying we'll have costumes. I'm not saying we'll have upgrades or weapons or whatever. But if we're going to give you something that persists between plays, we're going to do it in a single player home game instead of a public cabinet where how do we even track that kind of data, you know?
But here's the tricky thing: we are gonna build a public cabinet out of this game.
That was going to be one of my later questions. Are there plans to have a Abs versus the Blood Queen cabinet?
Oh yes, for sure.
We've already sold some, so I hope so. But yeah, and so right, it has to also make sense in a framework that if we were to release it as an arcade cabinet, we can either cut it or modify it such that it makes sense or whatever. So as of right now, I will say the Ladybugs resource is something that we have intentionally implemented, but does not go anywhere yet. You collect these Ladybugs and they're counted beneath your score, and we have left that flexibility open to potentially be used to acquire something. I'm not saying it's hats. I'm not saying it's upgrades. I'm just saying we have that resource at our disposal,
So
and we like to use it.
about talking about hats.
I don't know if you're watching
Instead,
chat right
we're
now.
definitely putting in hats. Yeah.
Like hats, it's the most innocuous subject, right?
And yet
Right.
chat disagrees.
Accessories.
Jyro said hats are coming. I heard it from Wines Now One. Hats for KQB.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the reality of practicality, right? Like, do we want to implement accessories? Maybe, right? Like, if we can find a good fit for it, a good way to implement it, and a way to make it meaningful to collect and stuff like that, we're not just going to plop in hats. We're not going to make them a DLC. They have to feel right, you know? It needs to be just as well thought out and designed as any of the traps, because otherwise it's just like a tack on, you know what I mean? Like, could we stick in a bunch of accessories with Nick's artwork tomorrow if we cared to? Yes, of course we could. But you know, it has to be the right fit.
I think that is exactly the way we should implement it. Just totally haphazardly,
Just
without
plop 'em in,
any
no
meaning or
animations.
purpose, because that's
I'll
really the
just make
point
like
of hats, isn't it?
I'll make a child object of the character, and it'll just follow him around.
Yeah,
It
really.
doesn't matter what it
sure.
is.
Or just show a hat over the whole gameplay, really. You know, just a big hat, like a really big hat. You can't even see your character. It's just a big
Just a
hat.
hat. You
Just-
load the main menu, and it's just word hats.
Stock Unity 2D physics item tethered to your character, just dragging behind them.
We won't
Please
even
do
do art
not
for
chop
it. We'll-
anything from the cab version of Ab. Okay. All right.
No, no
Uh,
promises on that one for sure.
I mean,
We're
I think
gonna
we're
need
gonna have to
change
chop some
for
things
sure.
just because
Yeah.
otherwise it won't be really an arcade game.
There
But
won't
we'll
be a
add
main
some
menu.
things, too.
There won't be an options menu the players can get to. We're gonna have to change some stuff.
Wise Now One. Yes, I am designing the
Cool.
physical cabs, but I am not designing them right now. I've got my hands full making graphics for this thing.
Yeah, we have some of the placeholder stuff. That's a rough idea of the general intention we want to do from the Kickstarter. So if you want to see basically the latest, it's on the Kickstarter.
I mean, it's very Count Chocula. It'll probably change a bit, but
That's a good energy, though.
yeah, I mean, I like it. It's probably going to get toned down a little bit just because of the physical
Mhm.
demands of,
Count
Like,
Chocula.
that you don't want the corners to chip and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
true.
we just don't want this to be a production cab. Like,
Mhm.
we don't necessarily expect to sell as many of these up front as we do Killer Queen arcades, but we would like
I
to
think
sell
we could
these.
probably sell more.
I mean, yeah, I think we have the potential to sell more for sure. I just mean like right out the gate, we still need to make sure it's up to the same quality standards of abuse that a KQA can take.
All right.
Oh no, I disagree with that.
You think it should be less durable than a KQA?
More durable.
More durable? Yeah, I
Yeah,
just mean like a leaf
KQAs
there, right?
are really hard to make durable because they're so big.
Hmm.
You know.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Will Charles Pratt fit inside a cab?
We'll get him in there.
Yes.
We'll
We'll
pack 'em
stuff him right in there. We'll stuff him in.
Charles Pratt will just be the computer. We'll just hook up some wires directly to Charles J. Pratt, and he'll manage the whole game.
It'll be like that Star Trek episode, Spock's Brain.
I have switched over, by the way, to the monthly challenge. So the difficulty curve will be a little bit different, but there's the benefit that I can actually learn the map, which is why I knew that I could bump that warrior into the ooze.
Yeah, so let me ask you, how are
Yeah.
you feeling about the difficulty with the changes? I noticed you've gotten to the boss a couple of times. How are you feeling?
I'm curious to see if I can get to the boss now on this thing that was built with the old algorithm, because I haven't yet. And I definitely felt like it was much more attainable to get to the boss in that quick session with the new algorithm. But I don't know how much of that is just because I'd been practicing this monthly a bunch earlier today, and then just new map was just easy enough that I was able to sort of tear through it after 3 or 4 tries.
100% that's true. Jyro, is that true that the monthly is not using the new algorithm?
Right, so I was about to say, so the map spawning logic for the monthly is going to be the same, but the difficulty algorithm should be implemented across all of them.
Okay.
So there will be fewer enemies, fewer obstacles. The way we do essentially the obstacles and the guys is when we're generating them, we check the difficulty, essentially manager, and it says, should this spawn or should it get essentially removed from the game? And so the same rooms will spawn because we haven't added any new procedural rooms.
It's looking bad for me.
You got a few more options, hopefully. Yeah, it's like you're kind of stuck in the water.
Kind of stuck in the water there.
So, yeah, I feel like you probably wanted to make those platform jumps.
Wanted to make the platform jump.
Yeah, I probably didn't want to be in there. So you should be on the new difficulty here. Now, an important thing to know is the new difficulty it's a tuning, right? Like you're still going to see the general same types of enemies in the general same positions, but whereas right here before there might have been 2 soldiers, now there's 1. That spike up there might have had 2 spikes on it, now there is 1. There might have been a worker on this platform, now there isn't. And so that's the kind of changes you're going to see. It's not towards the overall like archetype of the game as far as like the map placement. It's as far as like how easy it is to navigate those shapes. So we'll see. I mean, if you make it more, if you make it to the end more consistently here, it'll be a good test. It's meant to be a tuning, so you shouldn't feel like this is a whole new game. That wasn't the intention with such a minor update.
Yeah.
Did you get to play it before today?
I played it on day of launch, and did find it very difficult. Or the day that it went opened up for early access. And it was definitely more difficult then. And I remember picking it up again, I think yesterday was when I started running the monthly, and thinking, oh, maybe this wasn't as hard as I remembered. So I wonder if that explains it.
Well, but that would have had the old difficulty manager, so it probably...
So we did change the difficulty.
That one was more difficult than the release date one. The release date one.
Gotcha.
I think we tuned the difficulty a bit between 4.0 and 4.1. I don't know how different we made it, but it's definitely a little more polished.
Doing okay.
Yeah,
We're doing
maybe.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, you can make that. Oh, he didn't even jump. Right into the goop.
We're good. Oh boy. Boy.
Amar thinks you're killing it. Amarika says whoever's playing now is killing it, so you have a fan.
Thank you, Amar.
Yeah. Hey, Amar. How's it going?
Amar believes in you.
Amar also said that I'm clearly the authority on stream because I have a hat, and therefore...
So Wise Now says, please implement player tracking on the cabs.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah, we intend to do features like that. We're a little far out from exactly designing that. Like we don't know what that looks like. I mean, that's also, for what it's worth, been something we've always worked towards with stuff like Killer Queen. Even this is a little more manageable, obviously. But yeah, I don't think we know exactly what that looks like, right, Nick? Quite yet.
No, we don't know, but it's kind of coming together as a whole for all of our games.
Yeah, I guess. Do you want to mention super quick, like we're kind of doing a sort of back end that will hopefully solve a lot of those problems?
Yeah, I mean and part of what you're seeing, like the high score system that we're using now for abs, is actually using that back end.
Yeah, so abs is also definitely functioning as a test for those systems. Like, how can we access them? Do they track the data the way we want and stuff like that?
Amar, will there be any kind of API output that community can take and do weird stuff with? Not sure. Oh, hey Hilton, how's it going? I'm not. I mean, yeah, there will be, but like it'll be different than the old stuff.
Yeah, I think that one of the intents with the new system is that we're going to give you probably, if there's an API, it's going to be more like we're going to have a website where you can like look up your information and your stats, and we're going to have data accessible that will allow you to look at, and you can do what you want with that. It won't be like the cabinet's going to spit out a bunch of weird strings that we meant to use for something else, and you'll tag into it. That was always.
I mean, it's not going to be doing that anymore, but we will have a system to do that stuff for like it'll just be built in.
Yeah, so it should be better, if anything, in that it will be. This system we have right now is never designed to be used by the public. Y'all just kind of figured it out that we were doing it and went, yeah, we'll just start kind of hacking together some stuff from this. And we were like, oh, okay, you do that.
Some really incredible stream overlays.
Yes, there's some really cool stuff in there. You're having a good run too.
I'm having a good run.
In there. Yeah. But yeah,
oh my god, why did I say anything?
I'm about to watch.
Damn.
The double snail is just brutal. I just need to be more patient when they show up. It's easy if you don't walk straight into them.
Yeah, can't bulldoze it too hard.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing really well.
Thank you. I'm feeling good about this.
Especially considering you're also talking.
Yeah.
It's always a little harder to play on stream for sure.
Yeah, and I
can't even watch you and talk. So I mean, that tells you where I'm at.
You just don't stream enough, Nick. You gotta be a streamer.
No, I'm not a streamer. I can barely speak in front of the camera. Did Choco ever release that thing of me talking about the tile system?
I don't know. It's upcoming if it's not out yet.
Yeah, I'm like stiff as a board and like, this is how we do the tile system.
I do always want to like take the videos you and Josh make and just make them like 10% more like casual,
Yeah, I kind of hope somebody takes it and does like that old show from the 90s where they would like pop up videos kind of thing. Just do a bunch of crap around that to make it more entertaining.
I'll just do a reread of it.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, yeah,
dramatization. Black and white.
So I'm curious about something. Nick, I heard your podcast on Indie Arcade Wave about like the history of Killer Queen. And I'm kind of curious as to why abs, why gold? Did you have like, is there a lore behind, how this game came about?
Are you looking at Nick's video on the stream right there?
Oh, I'm watching Twitch.
Take a peek at the.
Yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive answer right there.
Yeah, for those of you that can't see, that is an abs tattoo that's blocked by Nick's name on the stream. So,
had I known it was going to be there, I would have changed the layout to accommodate it.
No, it's fine. No, I mean.
Oh, I'm dead. Oh, I'm super dead. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
I don't know. I kind of like the boldness of abs. It's just like when I came up with him, like I remember, I don't know if it was Josh or somebody was saying like, "Do you think it's too risque or something?" I'm like, he's pixel art, you know, like I don't know. There's something just kind of bold about abs in a William Shatner kind of way that I really like, you know. And then gold is my preferred color to blue, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of people who like blue abs better, but we had actually someone requested
All right.
that they get a blue abs version on their custom joystick. So there are definitely blue abs fans. I'm more of a gold abs fan.
Yeah, I think that one thing we pay attention to the memes, you know, like as a company and as persons, we know that abs is much more of a meme than Stripes is, and we are not afraid to say, yeah, memes are cool, we like it, we like that you guys are making more content. And so, you know, we like abs and the community likes abs, so it just felt like a natural fit.
Yeah,
and
he's definitely a more popular character for sure.
He is. And he markets a little bit better if we're just being practical, right? Like he's kind of a little more exciting. He's a little sexier, just in an objective way. And, you know, checkers is cool, right? But like as somebody who usually gets shoved down to checkers because I'm the worst player playing objective, clearly he's not high value in people's minds compared to abs, you know?
I mean, he's really, I like checkers, unfortunately. And I know there's a lot of checkers fans out there, but I was just like, well, I've kind of done everything. Let me just put one of these guys in a fucking sweater, you know, like, and that's how, like, that's kind of how checkers was born.
Right.
And
I feel like Stripes is like the stock guy, right? Like he's the guy, the striped shirt, very standard, you know, the main character in a sense, in some ways, like, but just the regular guy, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was the original character, and he, like, that shirt was based on, like, rugby shirt. Because, like, yeah. And then the original version, they had numbers on their chests. But, like, as the characters started shrinking, yeah, they lost the numbers, and then you got Stripes.
I feel like Stripes to me always reminds me of almost like a Ross character. Like, he's fine. You know what I mean? Like, he's just sort of there. How do you feel about Ross? He's you know, I like Ross. He's technically the main character of the show. Yeah, on Friends.
Yeah. But Ross is that's the thing, is the main character is a blank slate that the viewer is supposed to project onto, right?
Exactly. And I always vibe that way with Stripes.
Well,
right?
wait, hold on. If Ross is Stripes, then who is Checkers?
Who is Checkers?
Chandler.
Yeah, on Friends.
I feel like Checkers is low-key Chandler. Like, he's kind of, like, nobody really likes Chandler.
It's true.
Yeah, that's
really like. Does anyone really like any fans in the show?
I hear he's an accountant, maybe. I don't know.
What is his role really? He's just kind of the objective runner that fills in this like comic relief role. He's essentially, well, I've done everything else. Let's put him in a sweater of Friends characters. You know what I mean?
Have you mapped all of the Killer Queen characters to Friends characters?
I mean,
this is the first time I've ever heard of this mapping, but okay.
I was just thinking it feels like the right vibe. Whereas I feel like, see, like you know, if there's a spin-off, it should be like Joey or Phoebe, and those are much closer to abs. You know what I mean? They're just a little spicier. You know, they're a little more interesting. They don't feel quite as stock. And so yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of why we would choose abs, right? Like we don't want to do another Ross. You know, like nobody wants Ross again in another Friends. No one wants that. No one wants Chandler spinoff. No one wants that, you know?
Listen, I got a very detailed email from somebody saying that blue checks should be the star of this, and that we should change the whole thing. This was kind of early on. But yeah.
Well, I mean, that person's allowed to be wrong if they'd like to be wrong.
I think you can.
Nobody's really wrong, you know.
And you could do the sort of like
there's no right or wrong or truth in our world. It's just all alternate facts and alternate truths, alternate right and wrong. It's all the same, you know.
You could say
not blue check.
If you collect like 10 ladybugs, then you get to go on top of the castle and unlock blue checks, right? Like.
You take the cannon and shoot to blue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that is. I mean, in all honesty, that is something that we are planning on doing. Is that you could play the different characters. So that is happening. But
Yeah, that will be one use for the ladybugs. The intended use is there will be a way to unlock blue checkers or any of the main characters. We're considering if there's ways to unlock other types of looks, but at least the main 8 characters will be something that you'll get to play. So,
Other types of looks. I say, shaking
other
my
types
hat
of
at the
looks.
camera.
Well, I mean, like maybe, right? Like I said, that's an option on the table. We have to see if it's a good fit.
Mhm.
Hats aren't
Amar
off the
is
table.
saying
but
that we
hats
should
aren't.
save the video. I'm assuming we're saving the video, right?
Oh yes, we will save the video. Yeah, sorry, Mark, you were saying.
Will you be able to play as the queen?
It's something that we've talked about, but actually, there is literally zero advantage to playing the queen in this game. Like, there is none.
Yeah, what are you
whatsoever.
gonna dive to? I guess.
Yeah, like where are the columns? Where are the like what are you escaping? Everything is coming in from the left. It's not. There's no vertical downward threats or anything. So it doesn't really make a ton of sense. And then does it turn into a regular queen? Does the queen look kind of like abs? I mean, there's like a bunch of questions there,
Yeah.
So
I think-
maybe, but I really don't think we're going to go in that direction, honestly. Like, we thought originally that, yes, we're going to do that.
I built it. There's a queen gate in the code.
Yeah,
Like,
there
you
is
can
a
turn into
queen
a
gate
queen.
in the code and everything, but it just doesn't seem
Whoa.
useful at all,
That people are going to
Yeah.
Oh, I hate when that happens. I totally hate when that happens.
I think other than storytelling reasons, like, as far as gameplay reasons, people often think that the queen is the most powerful character because the dive is an offensive tool, but the dive is a defensive tool. You use the dive to escape 99% of the time. For every time that you're like, I'm going to kill this guy from above, you're like, I'm about to get pinched from both sides. I need to leave. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's really the ability as the queen. And here you spend no time running vertically. You're not
Mhm.
escaping from the guy above you. You have total authority over how you approach them because you're coming from left to right. And so, also, storytelling wise, this game is about not the queen. That's kind of part of the bit, right? Is like, this is the worker's story. This is the story about Abs and his adventure and what it means to be this, understated hero that rises up to power instead of being the queen, which is already the focus of Killer Queen and the strongest, person and usually sort of the team captain. So,
Mhm.
Right. I mean, actually, one of the titles that we were seriously considering going with was Working Class Hero. Which,
Belia really wanted that one.
yeah, Belia really wanted that one.
Real bad.
Someone
So, yeah,
asked
so-
about-
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jyro, you finished.
Hey, go. Nope, I was just going to sort of sentiment that. You can go ahead.
Somebody asked if there's any thoughts about doubling up on speed for the warrior.
Josh
sorry.
brought that up yesterday.
Yeah, he did actually.
He did. Or
Is it
Josh?
Josh?
He
Is
was
Josh
in
in chat? Yeah.
So there's some logistics issues, right? So just I will speak not from a design standpoint, but strictly from a development standpoint, which is if we're allowing you to stack speeds, right? Like, how many speeds can you stack? And at some point that becomes a literal physical issue, right? Like, we need to not let you run off camera. We need to not let you run so fast you can clip through these walls that are actually much thinner than you are. And we need to make sure that when you bump into objects like berries and balls and other workers, you don't send them into oblivion, So right now the answer is no, just because I don't have a good solution to solving all those things except for capping the speed. And at that point, why are we even allowing speed to stack if it can cap?
Mhm.
So
That's
that's not about
another
right.
interesting.
Yeah.
When I first played this game, I thought it was gonna be run as fast as you can. Since it says run like hell at the beginning. Are there any plans for speed running or tracking how fast people can get through the level?
Well, we are if you notice at the end, it does say your speed.
Oh, cool.
Your time.
So, it was. We had a lot of discussions about speed running.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of the hard metrics are more around getting points, which requires slowing down, collecting all of the flies, collecting the snail, etc.
Right, but if you're speedrunning, you're doing something completely different. You're playing the game in a completely different way than what it was meant to be. Nobody who was working on Mario was thinking, you know what would be great if we optimized this for speedrunning. But, you know, it was a different time, and like now we are thinking about ways that we can support that community as well.
Yeah, I mean, I speedrun personally, like on my Twitch channel and on YouTube and stuff like that. I run Super Mario 64 Randomizer.
Ooh,
and
that's a fun one.
I love it. I just got bopped out of the top 10 last week, and I'm furious.
Oh God.
But yeah, so like it is something that I personally care about, and I know it's something that Nick and Josh both also think about. Like, we know there are speedrunners in our community, and that's a demographic we for sure want to make sure at least get. Even if we're not going to design poorly for them, like we are going to have an in-game timer that will be in the final version, and the game will be playable as getting to the end as fast as possible. There's no reason you have to collect any of the berries. There's no reason you have to collect any of the points and any of the bugs, you know? So, are you about to get like...
it was just really dumb. It was really dumb. I was like, oh, this is fine. Yeah, well, I gotta clear it. I'm live on...
The trick with that room for getting extra points is to bump them as a worker because you get double points.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is a little tougher.
When you fail and you die, it's like you feel particularly greedy, but that is the way.
Yeah, that's what Pod Racer does.
Yeah. Oh, Pod Racer. I don't know if Pod Racer gets any kills that aren't bump kills when he's a worker. He will stay a worker and bump everybody. So I want to answer one question that I answered in the chat, but I want to answer it out loud. Amar asks, will there be any other tile sets? Yes. There will be at least one more tile set. And that's not counting sub-tile sets. Like there's going to be a metal tile set, for example, that it acts as a backing to all of the metal tiles. So right now, those spikes can get a little hidden. They can be a little tough. So right there, the spike wall that you're just passing will have a metal backing to it. Certain objects will be entirely metal. That's an example of a tile set that'll blend in.
Okay, he's totally setting you up for meat map jokes here.
That's fine. I love meat map. I'm a big meat map proponent. Meat map was the first Killer Queen map that I had design input on, and so I dearly love meat map, and I'm just absolutely just sad that no one plays it in tournaments. Was it played like once at Bumble Bash 4?
I also love meat map. Good. Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, I know it's not day map, but it's not supposed to be. You know,
it's supposed to be meat.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a little more interesting, but it has no weird new mechanics. You know,
if we ever get to the point where people are just playing Killer Queen again, I'm sure there's gonna be like some team out there that's gonna like totally learn meat map and use it every single time to win.
That's what I don't understand, honestly, about Bumble Bash 4 to me, was that like they had the like some teams should have specialized in meat map. Because it would have given a huge advantage. Just pick meat, right? Like it's like a free win every single time. And it was like there were 50-something teams and not a single one went, you know what we should do? Just like play the odd game. You know what I mean? Like every other game has that.
I was surprised. In my head, I was convinced that some team was gonna like just grind on meat and like
It's a great opportunity for like a smaller scene to make a really big push. You know what I mean? Like just like you're a smaller scene, so you're gonna be on off everyone's radar. No one's gonna know you're specializing in meat map. You always pick meat, and it's a free win. So you basically only have to win one of your other two games to advance.
I mean, I don't know if it's a free win if you're playing against like certain players, but I think it's definitely an easier.
Yeah. I mean, a free win in the sense that like you're so favored compared to playing on like day map. You know, like I don't want to play against New York players on a new on a really old established map. I'd rather play against them on the map that came out yesterday. You know?
I don't know who Arguus is, but he was saying wasn't meat map banned from Bumble Bash.
It was played like twice.
Yeah,
people played it. It was only banned because every team banned it. Like every team said, "What would you like to play?" And they said night, and then the other guys said dusk, and then they settled on day as the third. No one banned it.
I mean, I know that there are scenes where they just refuse to play meat map.
Yes,
I mean,
that is.
people also refuse to wear masks. So
I'm a big fan of that analogy personally. Well, yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, people refused to play Night Map when it first came out, and people refused to play Dusk Map when it first came out. So I'm really hoping.
I mean, in all
arcades open
fairness,
back up.
Night Map was particularly bad when it first came out. So,
And the original Meat Map was, unpolished as well. And I think we're very close to something that is just about done with Meat Map.
yeah, I think it's getting there. I don't think it's quite there yet, but it's really hard to tune it when nobody's playing it too. Like that's the other part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, people are like, Meat Map needs to be better. We're like, totally. So like, what needs to be better? They're like, I don't know. I don't want to play that map.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of hopefully we come back and people are, refreshed with their spooky experience with Abs versus the Blood Queen and feel more invigorated to be playing on a map made of meat.
Nobody loves to run on meat more than we do. Just running all over the meat.
We're a big fan of meat.
Meat all the time.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Put it directly on the YouTube channel. That's clip it.
Yeah. Can we get a clip, Twitch?
Clip. Bumblebear loves meat. Confirmed.
Bumblebear loves
from
meat.
the team themselves.
Meat.
We're getting a lot of very good clip moments here. Like, I'm definitely going to pull out that friend stuff. Like,
Good. I'm glad that's what'll be making it from my discussion out of this video is my bold statement of, well, I mean, Stripes is Ross.
this is what happens when Dexter isn't around.
So it's Stripes is Ross and Chandler's is Checkers.
Is Abs Joey?
Well,
Abs is Joey and
Abs is
Yeah.
gotta be
both
Joey.
of them.
because I
It's
definitely,
Phoebe too, though, right? It's
thought,
character.
I thought Abs would be a shoo-in for Joey, but as soon as you said Phoebe, I was like, no, that's correct. I'm 100% on
Right,
Phoebe.
yeah. Kind of the weird one, but
Yep.
like kind of likable, but like a little odd. You know what I mean? But it's
Wait,
a little bit of
Phoebe?
Joey energy, the no shirt kind of like attitude, a little Joey.
Yeah,
It's
for
an
sure.
origin
Has anyone seen episodes?
of
Friends?
Friends.
Not
No,
for
no,
yeah,
no.
all of
Show
it?
called Episodes, and
Oh,
Joey
no.
Joey is in it, and he plays himself. He plays Matt LeBlanc, and it's kind of amazing.
Wait, how? So Matt LeBlanc plays Matt LeBlanc, or Joey plays Matt LeBlanc?
No, Matt LeBlanc
Okay.
plays Matt LeBlanc.
All right.
And
You said Joey. I was very confused as who was playing
Yeah,
who in
yeah,
that
yeah.
statement. Honestly. Okay. What is Matt LeBlanc playing Matt LeBlanc? Isn't that just
he's a
guy?
douche. He's a
Yeah.
douchebag. He's a total
Yeah.
douchebag.
I mean, that makes sense.
He
Right.
sleeps with the head writer's wife. He's just, he changes the whole show to fit his persona. It's kind
Is
of
that is that part of the scripting though, or is IRL Matt LeBlanc actually?
Oh no! I mean that was the show. The show was that the show was that there was this British show that then got bought out by an American company, and the writers were really worried, but the network reassures them they're not going to change anything, blah blah blah. And of course they turn it about a headmaster, in a boarding school to being a hockey coach at a California school or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, Friends. What a show.
Oh, friends. Well, no one told us life was going to be this way.
It's true. We weren't
No one
warned.
told me that I was going to lose a year of my life during COVID.
Okay, we're good. I will say, from a just bit of playtesting feedback, I think my first run ever, I got eaten by a snail, and I've managed to dodge that every run since.
Good,
Well,
you're
if
learning.
The very first snails had the original Killer Queen snails. This is another example of a change we've made, right? So the Killer Queen snail eating hitbox is just massive.
It's huge.
It sticks out pretty far above the queen. And that's kind of intentional. Get a snail eating you in Killer Queen. There's a way to be saved. There's this tension. Do you jump off and let the other guy ride? Then you get eaten. Then here though, it's just it just blocks more of the ledge. And it's well, that's not very interesting. So that's an example of that was in the first build, and players were I just keep getting eaten by the snail, even though I'm not touching it. And we're yeah, you know, yes, you're correct. So we changed it.
I really
So
want to see
glad-
you beat that boss.
I also want to see me beat that boss.
You've gotten there.
I've gone there a
couple
bunch of
now, right?
times.
Yeah.
I need to
You're
just
at least I think 5.
I just need to fully clear half of it. Because the problem is dodging the big hitbox and the 4 small hitboxes.
Yeah, I mean, I
Oh,
assume
that's
you're
a
going
bad
for
way
the you want to kill the little guys
Yeah,
first
yeah.
before you
I
pop.
personally
Yeah.
think that boss is too hard, but
It's tough.
It-
And
It probably is. Objectively, right? Like it's probably a little too hard.
I mean, especially now that we've lowered the difficulty on the rest of the game, it feels excessively punishing when you get to that boss.
okay, come on now,
Yeah,
bud.
you-
And not to say that the
know.
game is easy now, because I don't feel like it is, but
Well, I feel like
in
we're
this
approaching.
circumstance-
All right,
Well,
so
also-
one tip here: don't.
Yeah.
If you get bumped by a worker for the first time, don't jump again.
Yep, just
He will
chill.
Always just body bounce you over and over again, no matter what you do.
Yeah,
Yep.
let him
It's just the
turn.
way the timing works out. Yeah. And that's like one of those things you just have to get the muscle memory for because your brain says, fuck, I missed that jump. I got to go for it again. And then you get bumped again. You're like, screw this guy. I got to go, you know?
Ooh,
And,
this is unfortunate. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good.
Get out. Nice. Nice.
Oh, you're gonna totally make it. Don't worry.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, don't have time for the secret though.
You're doing
Yeah,
okay.
that's
Doing okay.
You're close, but
Yeah.
you're making some ground up on the stream now.
Yep.
Feedback from the community indicates the boss is hard, but it's also the only boss right now. Or maybe there's 2 I haven't made it through Hell yet. Yeah, I won't spoil what's at the end of Hell for you if you haven't seen it, but we definitely we want to get this boss feeling right. We're gonna add new art to it. I've mentioned that in the Discord a few times. It'll probably get a little bit easier. We don't know whether that'll be it spawns fewer guys or the guys will be a little bit more forgiving. We have to figure that out. But there will be other bosses. Go ahead.
We
Nick.
could slow them down, like increase their hurt boxes. There's a lot of things that we could do to make them a little bit easier. But
Yeah. And so we'll be
and-
testing.
Oh no.
most of
No.
those.
Why?
I mean, we literally threw this guy in pretty much right before the build, just so that we could kind of feel like there was more of a complete cycle in there, you know?
So what were you saying about getting eaten by snails? I didn't.
Twice ever.
I
2
don't
times
hear-
ever.
Was it 2? Because okay.
Yep. And after the second time, it never happened again.
I have to say that is the worst death in this game. You just feel
Oh
like,
yeah.
You watch yourself get consumed. Like it's not like you die. You get devoured. You know.
and
Makes it
there's
worse if they don't
nothing you can do. You just have to sit there getting eaten, and then you see the wall like run by you.
Yep. Doesn't even care about you anymore.
No.
No,
It's like-
you're gone. You are not of this world. All right. Here's a question for everybody. What's your favorite secret room that you've seen so far?
I think for me it's the one with the oh, you didn't go for the ladybug.
Did I miss one?
Yeah, there was a ladybug that you missed. It was
Shit.
1,000 points, dude.
Shit. I got 3 of them. Oh, there was the 4th on the
Did you
jump
get
that I
3?
missed. Yeah.
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 I think my favorite secret room is the one with the billion warriors in it that are just like kind of going up and down.
You know,
Yes,
Mhm.
same.
It's really fun to like bump them into the spikes.
I did lose to that room, but I am very excited to get to see it again sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you can like manage to get like some bumps in there where you like get the double points on the warriors, it feels really good.
This is a Kickstarter reward, right?
What's that?
What-
Oh, the graffiti.
Yes. Yeah. So we have forum people can, if you backed us on Kickstarter, they fill out their graffiti. So all the graffiti you see in the game has been submitted by players.
That's awesome.
And we thought that was a cool way to kind of let people, you know, make their mark in the game permanently. There's a
Mhm.
few graffitis I've yet to add that have been added in the last couple weeks or so. But yeah,
There should be some Wonderville graffiti in there. If it's been
I'm
added.
sure there is a few.
Well,
I
you
think
know, the
I'm pretty
price
sure
just
yours is in
went
there.
up on graffiti going into the game, Mark. Sorry to tell you.
I think his graffiti is already in there. Mark back.
Oh,
us.
okay.
I mean, I could just spray paint the cabinets, you know.
No, I am quite confident that your graffiti is in there because I am the one that adds them. So It is in there somewhere.
Jeepers Cats. Okay.
Jeepers cats. I'll take that. Thank you.
What does your graffiti say, Mark? Doesn't it just say like Wonderville?
I think it says Wonderville Forever or something.
Yeah, it does. I've seen it. It's in the game. I've seen it in runs. It's definitely in there. And I definitely remember adding it. Chaco and I definitely... Chaco did the initial run where he went through and, just made sure there were no characters that weren't allowed and that everything was, appropriate and stuff like that. And then I've looked through them as well. And so there's a bunch of responses. I think we have a lot of graffitis because a lot of people backed at that level, which was great. I mean, it was cool to see that, and it's also fun for us to have that kind of content generated.
Did you? I mean,
greedy!
Did you really go for that?
It's fine. It's fine.
So I was gonna ask, because we had to deal with a Kickstarter, did you get any graffiti that you were like, oh, I don't know about this?
I mean, so no, not really, honestly. So the graffiti overall was a lot better than I thought it might be. I don't want to get too much into specifics of which ones were, but there was nothing super wildly inappropriate. There were just ones that was this probably doesn't fit exactly the overall intent, right? The main rule was basically no disparaging remarks, and I think that's intentionally a little bit nebulous, and so just what might be funny or topical to some people might just be a little too pointed more than inappropriate. No one just wrote fuck everyone should die, right? There was nothing super intentionally inappropriate or graphic,
Mm-hmm.
No one put tons of hate speech in our responses or anything, so it was pretty good. That being said, I think most of our backers were people that we have met IRL. So, I think that it goes a long way in that there weren't exactly a lot of 13-year-old hyper pretend right-wing trolls trying to be edgy in our Kickstarter. It just didn't really exist, It was mostly our community. Our community is mostly reasonable people.
Mm-hmm. All right, feeling good about this run. Got the early berry. Haven't seen any walls of slugs, snails.
Are you on random run again?
I am on random run again. Yeah, I switched over to random.
Have you done the daily for today yet?
I toggled between daily and monthly. I do not remember which is which, but I should go back to the daily. Because I got to the boss in the daily a few times.
Did Wonderville donate to the Kickstarter? Yeah. Oh yeah, you answered that, Mark. Yeah, of course they did. For sure.
It probably came from me personally, because Wonderville's money is,
Yeah, I think whoever it was, some form of Wonderville or Mark definitely supported us. Absolutely. We're always happy to work with and around Wonderville, of course. So, we're happy to see them in there, and we're happy to hang out and support their Kickstarters and in their arcades and stuff like that. I was excited. So I DJ'd at Wonderville last weekend, was it? Last Friday, I filled in for somebody. Yeah, I mean, at one point the backyard was appropriately filled, and that was nice. You know what I mean? All the tables had people at it, but it wasn't overcrowded. Where I was there's too many people here. This feels a little unsafe. So that was nice. I was unsure. I still haven't really been playing DJing out at venues much, but the venue, the space you had for DJing felt comfortable. I was insulated enough that I felt like I could be pretty safe. And then, yeah, everyone in there seemed to be kind of mostly keeping to their own groups, or when they were talking to other people, being reasonable and outside and stuff like that. So I was pretty surprised that, I guess not surprised, but happy to see that, I guess, you know what I mean? I was glad to see that the people were out there and hanging out and stuff in a way that felt reasonable.
So I have a question for you, Mark, which is you alluded to the Kickstarter because you said well, we ran a Kickstarter and it sounded like you had a story that was kind of weird or whatever.
So we had a reward where you can etch your name into the side of an arcade cabinet. And we've been doing the etching, and there's nothing bad, but someone submitted their company website as the name to be etched. which was just kind of like a weird thing. But you know, somebody advertised on the side of the cabinet. It wasn't bad per se, but again, it's like the same thing. I wouldn't have like, you know.
Well, we had that too, and we banned it. We just yeah. We were just like, no, you can't. You're not gonna get a lifetime advertisement.
Yeah, I mean, it only happened once, so we put it on there, and it's fine. You know, they donated money, so. But yeah, you know, you don't think about that stuff when you're just like, write whatever you want on this thing that lives permanently. You know.
I feel like that's my least favorite thing about sports is the sponsorships. Like, I just feel like I don't mind teams being sponsored and everything, but like stadiums being named after companies is just really like gross to me. You know?
It's pretty lame. It's like, this is Gillette Stadium. It's like, okay.
It's like, oh, it's Citibank Field. I'm like, what?
Okay. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
That's a lot of gems that I do not have time to grab.
Oh no.
It's okay.
The ones in the slope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever go for those really, just because like I know I'm gonna need that time later on.
Easy. Oop. This is a little dicey. All right. Easy now, buddy.
You can do it.
We're doing good. This looks like we might reach the boss here. Not to curse you or anything.
You have to say that right before I get jug.
Well,
I think you should have taken the high road here. Oh, fuck.
I knew it. I knew he'd keep coming for me.
Do those warriors follow you? Like, when you pass them, is there a certain distance that they'll follow you?
There's some warriors that follow you. That's their design, and then there's others who just follow a pattern.
Yeah, so the heat seekers will follow you more or less forever.
Ooh.
Like, it's not a troop forever, but they'll follow you basically till they despawn.
Yeah.
Now, things despawn really quickly in this game. Like, basically, as soon as an entire generation area or room is off screen by, like, not more than a few units, it despawns. That's for both performance reasons, also it helps eliminate the amount of stuff coming at you from the left, which isn't very interesting.
That was a big problem in the beginning, was that like you just kept getting smashed by like fireballs from the left or whatever.
So they'll follow you until they despawn. They will often just get hung up on spikes or a wall or something and despawn. But if you were to like keep kind of kiting them as you walked, you would see them for a very long time. So 3.
Yeah. So actually,
that was a particularly tricky one.
That was a tricky one. That was a tricky one. And I feel proud of the way I handled it, though it didn't. Yes, sorry, we have some lore in chat.
Lore, mobile warrior equals heat seeker. That's not. I mean, you can say that's the lore. That's literally what we called them in code.
So I'm curious about that, because it did feel to me like this was okay. Well, I'm fucking up jumps because I'm talking now. This feels like it has more lore and more story than I knew existed in the Killer Queen universe. Is that correct? Or is there just a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I'm not aware of?
Oh no, we have a whole wall where we've mapped out the entire lore of Killer Queen, what planet they come from, and like we have the whole trajectory where Killer Queen Black fits in with the Killer Queen universe versus the Abs universe, and then like other future projects that like of course we've completely mapped out. It's all very, very, very tightly written, really tight lore.
And we're gonna get a slow drip of that in this game, right? Sort of taking we're like
the MCU. We're just doling it out very slowly. There's a lot of like little chestnuts that like people are like, why is that in there? And then later in the 5th game, you find out that like in the Abs there was like some reference that
you got to read all the item descriptions.
You do.
Exactly.
In Dusk Map, there's those skulls, and now there's these zombie guys. Is there a relationship? I'm not saying that there is. I'm just saying that there could be. So I mean, and I'll give you a less silly answer, which is I think just that there is way more lore in this game in that there is literally any. You know.
Yeah.
We have a named character in this game. Fun fact: in Killer Queen, no characters have names. They are called Worker A, B, C, and D.
In fact, that was my major objection to the name of the game, was that we would have to name him, and I felt like it really kind of was antithetical to the Killer Queen way.
We begrudgingly included the names of all 4 characters in the Kickstarter because that made it official that they were in fact named Stripes, Abs, Checks, and Skulls, I believe we called it. Because it's like many of those have different names, right? Like there's Waffles fans out there, there's Invader fans out there, you know, and we didn't name them, the community named them, and so it felt a little sad to stop letting those memes essentially be generated and have to actually do it, you know.
My favorite name for workers was Backpackers. Like that was the best.
I mean, it fits.
I thought that was really funny.
So
yeah, I mean,
good. I was gonna say that's a fun question. What's your favorite unofficial name for any of the characters?
I mean, I think Waffles.
Obviously.
You like Waffles?
Waffles is really good.
And that's a terrible character, so it actually makes it a little bit better.
It gives him a little charisma, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's got a good name. Waffles. You know, Checkers, it's like, oof. It's even worse than what he looks like. And I drew him.
I think my favorite is, what's the name of the snail? People have named the snail.
Have they?
Yeah. Chat, can anyone tell me what the name of the snail is? Because I know that the community has named the snail something, and I love it, and I've just forgotten. Winston, is that the correct one? Yeah.
I have heard Winston.
Yeah. So the community. Thank you, Argus. So yeah, I like the snail having a name because I don't even think that in our brains we ever even internalized the snail as a character, right? It was more like a mount or like an object. It was as much a part of the, you know, gates and snails and berries. They're you know, flowers. They're objects in the game, but the community personified this very non-personified character and gave it a lot of not only life, but a lot of like its own name, its own sort of like story, its own behaviors. And I think you could even see we leaned into that a bit with like Killer Queen Black's art design, where like the snail now has an attitude. When it eats you, it's kind of like graphic and sludgy and stuff. And, you know, so I really like what the community has done with the snail, not just with the name, but with the personality of it, you know? What about you? You got a favorite community name? Mark, you're asking the question?
So I didn't know the workers had names until, you know, the community started coming and playing, right? So it was interesting when I think it was like Jack who was like, "Oh, the checks joystick is a little off," and I was like, "What checks? What are you saying?" So it was cool. It was cool to like hear that, but I always thought it was made up by the community. So like, you know, the New York community would have their set of names, and like other cities would make up their own names.
I mean, originally that was true.
Yes. Yeah, different places call them different things. Like Invader versus Skulls is a great example. There are whole groups that call it Invader and whole groups that call it Skulls.
I mean, Charles Pratt really tried to make Waffles stick.
He did.
I mean, I was all behind that because I think Waffles.
I liked Waffles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even really a checkerboard. I like Waffles. It kind of looks like a waffle.
Ribs. You know? That's right. Amar brought up abs, ribs, and also a six-pack.
Ribs.
I've definitely seen abs referred to as, oh my god, a 6-pack. Okay.
I heard that as well. Ribs is a good one. I like ribs because it just reminds me of like the McRib or something like that. Like it doesn't sound like a video game item or character.
McRib, you say?
It doesn't market as well. Like Ribs versus the Blood Queen, a little loose. I don't know if we would have gone with that title.
I don't know. Maybe that's creepier though.
Ribs versus the Blood Queen.
Waffles versus the Blood Queen, though.
Wait, here's a question: who is the Blood Queen?
I think
we
you're
just-
just gonna have to find out. I mean, I think we're all just gonna have to find out, really. But you know.
The Blood Queen is do you have any design thoughts and feelings about the Blood Queen, Nick, that you wanna share? Have you thought about that at all? Because we do intend to, in some way, shape, or form, represent the Blood Queen more than just in the name. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but none of it is really fleshed out in a way that I can talk about. And also, like, Josh has this idea that he keeps trying to sell me on, that Abs becomes the Blood Queen, and I really don't
Sure.
like that idea at all.
Spoiler alert.
Not a spoiler, because it ain't gonna happen.
Well, that's the bad ending. You could have more than one ending.
We have talked about that as well.
I guess, you know,
Yeah.
It's very roguelite, you know, to have multiple endings.
it is.
I think from my perspective, the Blood Queen is just sort of like it's less of a Bowser, you know what I mean? Like, Bowser is a very seen villain for most of the Mario games. He's introduced to you at the beginning, you hear his voice, you see him in every boss battle, and then you eventually fight him for real, you know, after your fourth battle with him. The Blood Queen doesn't do that, right? The Blood Queen isn't this enemy that like is in your face and taunting you, whatever. The Blood Queen is sort of like this unseen force, in my personal
the Blood
feeling.
Queen is Jaws, right? The Blood Queen is the shark in Jaws, right? Where you never see the shark until the very end of the movie.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it terrifying, right?
Yeah, we're definitely going for that hard. Like, a lot of this game is very styled and influenced by, like, you know, old school horror movie vibes. And, you know, there is a point in the movie, in some movies, where you do see the monster, but more often than not, you see somebody get dragged off into the darkness. You know, you see the results of the monster attacking. You see dismembered bodies, and, you know, most of the time you spend going around this creepy house, kind of in the darkness. And I think we want the Blood Queen to feel more like the darkness. You know, where eventually you're confronted with this big, you know, scary monster challenge at the end, but for the most part, and for many people essentially in the movie, and in this case many players in the game, they don't reach that for a long time or at all, because they are just killed by the horrors of the Blood Queen, you know. So the Blood Queen is...
says, I've heard some kids call warriors angels.
Whoa.
But it's interesting.
Very Dark Souls. It is
Very Dark
very
Souls.
Christian.
Also pretty Christian, but you know.
Yeah, I was like, is this like, are you hearing this at like a Catholic school or something? There you go. You got the Firefly that time.
Yeah. This is going somewhere, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're over 10,000 already. You're doing good. Caster's curse. But,
yeah, seriously. Why would you do this to
Sorry.
me?
Doing great. You're doing great.
Judging by the keyboard slamming, I don't know if it's true anymore. Oh, did you really just bop there? Come on.
This does give me a chance to look at the time in my notes, and I'm noticing that we're at 8:30. Typically, we aim for around 90 minutes. I'm trying to just like quickly see if there are any big things I wanted to ask about before we went any further. I guess there's sort of like my two closing questions that I always like to ask people who are on the show. Number one, what are y'all playing these days?
I'll go first one, Nick. Thanks. So I play a lot of Hearthstone, so I'm always kind of playing Hearthstone.
Hell yeah, you in the Duels Early Access?
I'm not in the early access because I don't want to pay $80
Yeah, same.
to a free game mode. But I usually do hit Legend in Hearthstone most months. I have been playing Battlegrounds a bit more this month.
Mm-hmm.
But I play a lot of Hearthstone. I'm also playing Hades right now, and I'm really digging it. I mean, I don't normally play games quite like that, especially for long periods of time. But I was like, you know what? The reviews are just so good, and a lot of people I trust are giving this great feedback, and it's really good. So I'm really digging Hades.
It's incredible.
20 hours in it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have at least 20 hours more. It seems like the kind of game I'll probably even pop back to once in a while. It's good.
I recently tried like because Hades managed to get that level of popularity where even the speedruns were getting like coverage by Polygon and stuff like that. I tried a few of the speedrunning routes for it. It's very rewarding. Highly recommend.
Okay, I haven't even beat the final, like beat a full run quite yet.
Yeah.
I'm only like 15, 20 hours in, but I'm getting pretty close, so I'll be ready for reading the wiki very soon.
Yes, there's a lot of depth in it.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured out builds yet. I'm still kind of figuring it out, like, okay, well, I know this one's pretty good and I like it, so I'll just use it again.
Actually, yeah, not to spend too much time on this, but speaking of builds, so I've been playing Highlander Hunter for what feels like a decade now, because I always liked Hunter, and Highlander Hunter worked very early on. What have you been running for the most part?
So, I mean, I usually run a few decks at any given time. I have a big enough collection. But so I've been playing a mix of Pure Paladin,
It's so good.
Control Piece, and some Control Warrior if I see a lot of like Control Priest and Control matchups.
Yeah, it seems that the Control Warrior keeps sort of shifting in and out with the meta right now.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite decks to play. I'm a control player at heart. I'd rather do nothing. I'd rather hero power on a turn.
You and I play this game very differently.
Yeah, I'm just like back when there was like tank up where you could gain 4 armor. I would just like press that button every turn. I don't care what else I'm doing.
I will say the first deck that I felt like competent with, where I got up to like rank 3 or something with early Quest Warrior. And that was like my first time really playing a control deck in that game, because I started Hearthstone kind of late, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I played Magic for a long time and played control decks there too, so that's my bread and butter.
Oh yeah, no, I was red and green, and now I'm Hunter.
I see. I was blue and black, so you can see what I'm doing.
Yep.
And my last answer is also I've been playing Rocket League. I just started doing Rocket League when I went free to play, and that game is cute and fun and playful, and I adore it. It feels very much like what Killer Queen's trying to do in some ways, and that like it's not about graphic or violence. It's not a shooting game, but it is competitive and team-based and playful and bright colors, and I really dig it. So if anyone wants to queue up some Rocket League, hit me up.
Rocket League's got a good level of wackiness too, in that it's like yeah, for sure.
It's silly. It's fun. I just want playful games. Like I want to make and play games that are fun and playful, you know? Like, I like it.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
So what have I been playing? I've been playing this game a lot called Bad North, if anyone's ever played it. It's like this weird little tactics game, but what I really like about it is the way that the timing works. Like, it's not turn-based, it's actually in real time, but it feels like it's turn-based because when you move guys, it slows down time. And so it's interesting. I wish the level design was better. That's my real, like...
That's the, like, hyper-minimalist one, right? Where it's, like, a single island?
It's a single island, but then the different islands have, like, different... Like, they're supposedly algorithmically generated, but I don't actually think they are. I think they just pick random ones. They look handcrafted to me, but and you know, maybe a little bit more variety in the kinds of guys you can have, and like your upgrades could be a little bit more interesting. But I do think that there is something, like as a game designer, I think there's something interesting there that they solved that in a very like unique way that I haven't seen anybody else do. And then I guess I've been playing this a little bit, and I just started playing the Blackout Club, which is like, it's kind of like this 3D game where you go on these missions and people have to do different things in the thing. It's a little bit weird, but kind of fun. And then a little bit of Slay the Spire, which I had not played for, like, I played it for a half a second when it came out, and then I just put it aside. And then Jyro and Josh kept talking about it, and like it kind of inspired me to start playing it again. So I guess that's what I'm playing.
Me and Josh do talk about that game a lot.
It's a good game.
Yeah. That 90% of my Switch, because I bought it on the Switch, my Switch usually just stays on my bed and is just a Slay the Spire player. So
that was I think I got Slay the Spire in early access like years ago, and then basically played it to the point where I never wanted to play it again. And then they released it and made it a way more balanced game and released The Watcher. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this again, I guess. Yeah, I guess, oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, Amar asked, how can you keep that in bed to sleep?
I answered him, chat. I mean, I have my tablet. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but I keep my tablet and my Switch basically just on my bed. My Switch is next to me right now. And I will play games until I am falling asleep, like losing turns in Hearthstone or like falling asleep. I'm like, now it is time for bed. I have actually fallen asleep playing a video game. So that's how.
And you make it to legend? You make it to legend with that attitude?
I lose like 20 games every month to doing that. No joke. And yes, it takes me an extra like 6 hours to get to legend every month. Like,
that was me with Clash Royale. Like I would literally be in bed and falling asleep while somebody in China was beating me or whatever, or some Chinese robot was beating me. And like, because I don't really play a lot of phone games, but I just kind of fell in love with that one. And like, I could take it to bed super easily. And I was just like, and then just pass out.
Do you guys want to talk about what games you're playing?
Yeah.
Super exciting.
Speaking of mobile games, I did finally cave to the weirdly vocal community in my Twitter feed that tells me I should try Genshin Impact. They were right. I should have tried it. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with it, but I should have tried it.
I see that game only when it like shows up in my Reddit popular feed for some unknown
reason.
And I'm just like, okay.
It is
like a weird anime game. What is this game? You know,
it is a bit of a ripoff of Breath of the Wild in that they made a sort of action RPG game in which pretty much all you imagine Breath of the Wild, but it's just Korok seeds and the world is bigger. And then at first it's like, that sounds bad. And then you think about it, you're like, actually, no, that was one of my favorite parts of Breath of the Wild. It's just a giant world that you get to walk around and collect treasure chests in. And there's like a bullshit meter that goes up as you collect things.
Interesting.
What's really neat about it is that they have like full cross-account support between PC and mobile operating systems. So I have like the same character that I might play with a PlayStation controller on my computer or just with the screen of my phone, which is kind of cool and an interesting sort of tech accessibility feature. But also the game's really tropey and like dialogue is kind of trash in my opinion. And so there's like a bunch of little problems with it. So it's free.
Yeah, when I see screenshots and content for that game, I'm always like, I don't know if this is for me. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to evaluate because it does feel very like, it's also hard to tell the type of game it is from just looking at like the art from it. Because I'm like, this could be a dating simulator. This could be an RPG. This could be an action game. The title is like the cover.
It
and
means
the name of the
nothing.
Game. Nothing. There's no. So as a player that hasn't played it, I'm just like, I don't know anything about this, and I have no way to learn about it. You know?
Yep. It's weird and it's clunky and Breath of the Waifu, yeah, that's about right. And that is not a tone that I'm typically interested in for my video games, so I'm sort of lukewarm on it still.
Gotcha.
Playing that and Heaven's Vault, which is a completely different game, and I highly recommend it.
Wait, has anyone been playing Among Us actually?
Oh yes, also Among Us. There's a channel in the Wonderville Discord for organizing Among Us games, I believe.
I saw that when I came in. I was like, oh, you guys are playing Among Us.
Yeah, hop in. I'm playing about once a week with random groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested.
I haven't played it that many times, honestly. I think I've played it 2 or 3 times with a few different people. But I really like it. I want to play more of it.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm the biggest hater on Among Us.
Why? Why don't you like it? I'm just curious.
So I will.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm a hater in general, but I will preface this with I don't like werewolf games personally very much. Like I don't think like Mafia and Werewolf are very fun games. Like they're not gamey enough, and they're also not like open-ended enough for me. They're this weird in between. Like I also don't really like Dungeons and Dragons, so I'll preface with that. But I think that like Among Us isn't even a good representation of that game. I think it's like there are many, many Among Us in the world. There are like many games on Steam that are like social deduction party game kind of things. And Among Us is one of them, and it's not even the best one of them. It's just the one that happened to get popular. And since a lot of people are playing it, it's easy to continue playing it, right? Like Werewolf's not the best werewolf game. It's just Werewolf, and everybody calls it a werewolf game, so therefore it survives. Magic isn't the best card game, but it's Magic, you know? So I just think Among Us is like a lukewarm Mafia clone. And
where do you fall on Secret Hitler? I'm just curious.
It's got, I mean, I don't like the people that make it, but I think Secret Hitler's got much better game design than like Among Us in terms of like, I do think that they made some choices and there are some unique mechanics to Secret Hitler, even though it's in that same genre, you know? So I like it a lot more than something like Among Us.
I think I can... Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say what I will say about Among Us is it's very easy for someone who's not into games to learn. Like the mini games are not hard, you know, and like you can easily start a game with someone who's not into video games. So I think it's more accessible in that regard.
Sure.
You know,
I feel like the mini games are the least satisfying part of the whole thing. Like it just feels like, why are they even making me do this at all? Why not just like I just stand here for a minute? You know, like I might as well on most of them.
Yeah, that's kind of I guess what I mean. Like if the art just needs polish. The little mini games, they just need polish. Like the actual like way you do communications, the UI, the interfacing.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It's horribly developed. There's no question, right? It looks bad. It's buggy as shit. It's like, it's like half the time you get kicked out of the server, whatever.
Do keep in mind, to its credit, it's a 2-year-old game that for some reason found success this month.
I'm not hating on the developers of Among Us by any means.
That's fair.
I'm not hating on the success of Among Us. I would love to be the recipient of such success. I would love if Abs versus the Blood Queen received the Among Us treatment, right? Don't get me wrong. But
you want AOC playing Abs versus the Blood Queen? That would be kind of amazing.
That'd be dope. Yeah, I mean, for sure, I'd love it.
Let's make it happen, Twitch.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm trusting the 10 of you watching to make this happen for us.
Yes, please.
I really, really want to interview a politician at Wonderville while they play a game. So, you know, if Abs versus the Blood Queen,
can we make that happen? You should totally invite AOC.
I don't know if I'll get AOC.
Yeah, that seems like a lofty goal.
But like Julia Salazar, if you're watching, you know,
always welcome.
District.
Yeah, district level politicians that are in your district seem a little more the right speed. I mean, you make it a hit. If they do well, then you get AOC, right? You got to ramp up.
Exactly. Start small.
I could see a space where Wonderville starts doing some stuff like that. Like I know you guys have been exploring a lot of sort of like what other sort of creative content can we use our space for, and I could see doing like little political sort of like not rallies but little like functions like that as an interesting use of it, you know.
That AOC interview was a huge success, and it's almost like politicians should take note of like this whole audience that exists on Twitch that they can talk to, you know, and you know
for basically free.
For free. It's just an open platform. So just like, I don't know, start playing video games. Figure out what you're good at streaming.
I mean, I think the problem is that most of them are very bad at video games. So they don't feel comfortable doing that, you know?
That's fine. Nobody cares. You know, just get on a stream and play.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a great opportunity to, you know, I said this when I first was talking with somebody about it, is that like there was this idea that like somebody like George W. Bush, right, was very electable because people could imagine like sharing a beer with him, right? Like that was basically his whole marketing strategy was like, I'm just a regular American. We could hang out at a barbecue, and it really worked. And I think that like as more and more people that are tech savvy and gamers and like just invested in more of these sort of things, if you start streaming on Twitch, like I feel more like I can relate to AOC because she plays some, you know, video games on Twitch because I do that. You know what I mean? Like that's a space that I'm in doing stuff that I do. I feel like I could have a beer with AOC because like she's in my spaces of my type of community, you know? So I think there's a big space.
I do want to see them while they're on Twitch. I do want to see them talking about issues, really. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want it to just be like, oh, well, this is a guy who can play video games. You know, like I do like, I don't know. I feel like it is like it's a platform where they can get a message out, you know?
Yeah. And you need a moderator. You need to have questions prepped, you know, like but it's an opportunity to reach an audience you might not otherwise reach.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and they should be doing that more. And there's plenty of politicians who do play video games, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Obama basically like blew up with that when he started doing YouTube stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like he was the first person to really engage with the internet with like Facebook and YouTube and like just putting out content. I mean, when Obama like tried to dip the cookie in like the glass that was too big and said thanks Obama. I don't know if you remember that, but like there was a whole subreddit that was thanks Obama, and they just closed it after that because they were like, well, that's it, we're done. Like he, you know, and people loved it. Like it was just, you know, and so I think that there's room for both, right? Like I think it's cool for them to talk about issues, but I also think it's cool for them to like participate in memes and play games for fun and just be a regular person, right?
Mhm.
Like
For
you know.
sure. But you know, you don't want what you don't want, I think, is just the cult of personality, right? Which is like that's the problem, right? When it just becomes all about Obama, the star, versus like what are Obama's policies, you know?
Sure.
You also don't want, I mean, what somebody said in the chat is Joe Biden going into Animal Crossing to make a campaign sign because you know it's not authentic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason some politicians do avoid it because they feel like they're not really authentic in it, you know?
Mhm.
Which I think makes sense. Like I don't think that like Lindsey Graham should be, you know, doing stuff on Twitch, right? But like I do
anything. He shouldn't even be alive, that guy.
right. So like I guess I also don't want him in these spaces, right? Like and I think that people in these spaces don't really necessarily want those persons. I don't even think if you're a very conservative person, you really want Donald Trump playing League of Legends, right? Like I don't think they really want that. But I do think that the persons who it makes sense for, right? Like AOC or these younger politicians, like I could see Cory Booker streaming on Twitch playing video games, right? Like that would make sense for his MO.
And isn't AOC ranked in League of Legends? Like,
She
she's
plays,
already in that world, you know? So it just makes sense.
Right. She's actually a person that plays games and probably watches Twitch streams, you know? Like I imagine that. That's why, I mean, if you watched, I don't know if you guys watched it, but she'd never played Among Us before, and she played fine.
Yeah.
She played, you know what I mean? She got it.
She also clearly knew.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Clearly knew streamer lingo, like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep. I mean, and she also knew how to communicate with like streamers and stuff like that. Like she obviously gets it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, did you have a second closing question for us?
I did, yes, and I think my runs are only getting worse. So, is
You got
there?
to the boss like 2 runs ago.
Yeah, I know, and then dived straight into the
Immediately
sludge.
lava.
Yeah. Is there
I
any?
feel like you are getting better. I'm seeing some like pro moves there.
I'm getting pretty good at like the. Okay, see, this is why. This is why we don't talk about it. My second and final question. Is there literally anything you are interested in plugging? Obviously, Abs vs. the Blood Queen, available in early access on Steam. Anything else? Other games you like? Other projects you've got going on? Whatever you want.
Oh.
I know,
I'll go
like...
first on that one, Nick.
I don't know. No, I just
Solid.
came here for the lulls.
Fair enough. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously, keep an eye out for stuff from Bumblebear, more topical on this. You know, make sure you're Abs vs. the Blood Queen, join our Discord server. There's links for that pretty much everywhere. You can just Google it probably. It's on Kickstarter. It's on our Steam page. So join us in Discord, chat with us, tell us what you like about the game, what you don't like about the game, even if you haven't bought it yet. If you have questions, we'd love to hear from you. Look forward to hopefully once things start opening back up, we're going to have Killer Queen content and stuff like that. So keep an eye on us. I'm also going to plug, let's say, my personal stuff. You can find me as Gyroblade everywhere. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on every social media you can imagine. You can find my SoundCloud. I'll plug my music stuff, soundcloud.com/Gyroblade. So anywhere you want to find me, if you want more of me, I'm very easy to find. And
Actually, there is something I'd like to plug.
Yeah,
plug it.
If you haven't voted yet, go vote.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yep, do the voting, guys.
Let's plug
Do the
all of
voting
that.
thing.
Do the voting. I hope most of you already have, but
Yeah.
Yep, stood in the rain on Thursday morning. It was great, refreshing. Tons of volunteers handing out like coffee and donuts. It was awesome.
I got a chicken sandwich. Did you go to the Brooklyn Museum?
No, I live up in Bushwick, so I was like the random community center down by the Halsey stop. Yeah. Yeah, I heard the Brooklyn Museum the line there was insane. Great turnout every day. It sounded amazing.
It was 3 hours. It was 3 hours.
Always a line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, I'm not going to say I don't care who becomes president, because obviously anybody who follows me on any social media knows who I want to win for president. But, we just so desperately need to fix the voting process.
Yeah.
It's just so broken right now.
yeah.
I bet there's one candidate that will probably do that and one that won't.
Well, yes. One who's actively trying to break it right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tend more towards there's one that is campaigning on breaking it.
Yes.
There is one who is not campaigning on breaking it. I don't know if they'll fix it, but I know they're not campaigning on breaking it.
Right.
Better.
It's not part of the platform.
Yeah. His platform isn't, wow, wouldn't it be great if less people were voting and that was harder? So,
I mean,
voted
he
for
was
that guy.
saying over the weekend at rallies that he's going to fire Fauci.
Yeah,
Once
it's
he becomes president.
ludicrous.
Great idea, dude. Great idea.
We're gonna watch the returns tomorrow at Wonderville. I'm gonna try and find the least stressful, election return stream.
That sounds. I heard you were doing that, Mark, and I gotta be honest with you. That sounds like my nightmare scenario, which is like the group trauma of watching these votes come in. As we haven't got any of the ballots from early voting counted till like Thursday, and it's just like, best case scenario, what? It just seems like a nightmare no matter what, and I want to be alone by myself or with like a loved one or something. I do not want to be in a public space. Because if Joe Biden's ahead, I'm terrified, and if Donald Trump is ahead, I'm terrified, and I don't need you to see me scared.
I'm going to watch the elections with my mom, just because I know she's going to be freaking out. And, I think she's going to need a little bit of moral support if things go south.
Yeah. Yeah, I will plug voting and also watching the election results with your loved ones. That seems like a good thing.
Yes.
Or Wonderville.
You can do it. You can do it at Wonderville, as long as your loved ones are there.
Wonderville.
That's all that matters.
It makes you feel the best. Really.
I don't think I'm going to drag my mom to Wonderville. But if, she is 83.
That would be quite the play, though. I mean, your mom. I don't even know how she'd feel about Wonderville. Like, I feel like she might like it. I don't even know.
I think that she would think nothing. She would just be like. I mean, she doesn't really know what I do she knows what my brother does for a living, but she doesn't know what I do for a living, right? Like, I'll be like, yeah, blah, 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 about the game or whatever. And she's like, what game? Like, literally, she'll just be like, what game? I'm like, the game I made with Josh. Oh, your friend. Oh, okay, yeah. And meanwhile, she knows my brother works at Blizzard. He knows he works on World of Warcraft. He knows. Johnny's like, well, how is this possible, Mom? I was like, yeah, good old Mom. Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
This was fun.
I'm gonna finish up this run.
Yeah.
Now that I've said that, it's probably cursed.
Super cursed. Don't worry. I'll say it. You're gonna have a great run here.
Asshole.
It's
Right as I'm about to.
It's done. There's no way it's making it any further.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was all right. I mean, you got through it.
I'm getting pretty good at error recovery, I feel like.
that is a
Yeah.
big part of the game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, water.
I it's funny. I get to play this game never in a grindy mode because I'm usually play testing features or objects and stuff like that. And so it was unusual. I did a 2.5-hour stream to promote the launch of it when we did the early access launch, and it was very enlightening to play for such a dedicated period of time, kind of like what you've been doing now, because you start to be able to sort of put a lot of the fine mechanics like error recovery or like basic jumps on the back brain.
Yeah, basic jumps, huh?
Well, to be fair, you didn't jump there.
Love those basic jumps.
You did just run off. You do need to jump. You still need to do the jumping part. But you moved it up. You were in last place, I believe, before. No, you were still in 8th, right? You were
No,
still in
I have not. I did not
8th.
actually successfully top my high score from this morning, but that's okay.
Well, maybe the difficulty needs to be a little bit easier.
Jyro, Nick, thanks so much for
having us.
joining us. Yeah, this has been wonderful.
Yeah,
This was
this was
amazing.
a ton of fun, guys. Thanks
It
for
was fun.
inviting us.
And thanks to everyone who tuned in. This is Remote Control. We do this every 2 weeks. Follow Wonderville on Twitter and Instagram to see updates about our upcoming stuff. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.